Hey everybody, how are you doing today? Hope well. Just busy adjusting my microphone over here. To make sure that the stream is running perfect, if anybody can write in the chat for me that you can hear me okay, and yeah, that would be great. If you can just let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay, and then I'll be able to see whether or not we can continue. So to anybody that's out there, hello, welcome. You can hear us? All good? Fantastic. That's amazing. I'm really excited, to be honest. Ironically, it's 10 o'clock at night over here. And I'm really excited to share this with you today. I've been working quite a lot with grounding this material specifically into something that can be digested, can be used, and also seen as a very deep piece of inspiration to understand astrology in a way that really awakens it for us. So that's what I've got planned for part of this conversation today. But before I do that, I'm just going to jump into the chart of the day, talking about this most recent full moon that just took place for us, and just reflecting some of my thoughts and feelings towards the nature of what these symbols have been representing to us and what type of archetypes have been shaping our evolution. So in the link, or if you go to my Facebook page, which is Raising Vibrations, and you go to Facebook, type in Raising Vibrations, you should find my Facebook page over there, or mine and Jen's Facebook page there. One of the posts, the most recent one, there is a link to a radio show that I usually, or once a month I talk. And I did one yesterday on just the nature of these current energies at the moment, and I highly recommend go and check that out. The link will take you directly to the show archive. And we're talking specifically about Pisces and the way that the world is at this stage. And it was a really bizarre experience for me because we usually talk about a specific theme or a topic, but it was really just off the fly, just a different random conversation. And there were little pieces of information that were in that conversation yesterday that I felt was really valuable. So, if you're interested in just digesting lots of evolutionary astrology material, then I definitely think that that's a good podcast to check out. And of course, on that show, there's loads and loads of other evolutionary astrology themes that are going out there. So I think that not just whatever I was sharing, but other themes that you want to learn from in terms of getting a deeper perspective on EA. Okay, so yesterday's full moon and the chart. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go over to that chart over there, and so you can see it on your screen at the moment. Okay, now my cursor doesn't actually allow me to show how it's moving on the screen, so you're just going to have to kind of follow my mind's eye. Look at how much Pisces energy there is. Okay, you see you've got Neptune there at 12 degrees in Pisces, so the 12 o'clock, the 12th house. You have the moon conjunct that, and you also have Chiron, right? So you've got the moon in Pisces at 13 degrees and Chiron, 27 degrees Pisces, right? As have been, the world is always filled with an intense amount of pain and suffering and darkness. Okay, we will always see that shrouding our world. It's not something that's going to be escapable. Okay, that is part of what this means to experience life through this dimension. Okay, Pisces is the archetype that shows us where there is separation, and it also shows us where there is unity. Okay, and the depth of what I'm sharing with you today here is something that I think takes some time to reflect upon. You know, when we're talking about um, astrological archetypes, specifically through an evolutionary astrology lens, okay, we're seeing Pisces not as a constellation or a astrological sign. We're looking at it through natural law. So when you try to identify these archetypes in reality, what you're going to see is aspects of life being represented and highlighted. So there's like a large array, and there's a large spectrum in which Pisces energy can be reflected. For instance, decay is an archetype, is a reflection of Pisces energy. Okay. When we look at the original point that I was sharing, or thread that I was sharing about Pisces, it is the relationship to darkness and separation, and it shows us that in our physical senses. And it is also the way that we, like I said, we experience bliss, where we experience pure enthusiasm, where we experience this relationship to something that allows us to feel something that is like it's trance-like state. So music, as an example, is actually a Piscean energy because it transcends. I'm sure every single one of you at some point in your life has experienced a rock concert, a rave like a rave, some form of party. Maybe you've gone to an event that you participate through, as an example, and the sheer collection of people that are participating in that event allows you to feel this sense of elation, this collective unity that gets shared when an event or a rock concert or a rave or whatever, everybody's on this vibe, on this wavelength, and it's transpersonal, right? So the Pisces energy is where we're able to access this ability to feel duality, to know duality, to know separation, to know darkness, to know uncertainty, and to also know unity at the same time. So when we look out into the world right now, you know, especially in specific parts of the world that from a Western perspective seems to be in a evolutionary state where life is not sustainable to the point that we can maybe have it here in the West, as an example, right? So let's just take certain countries in Africa as an example, certain places within not necessarily Australia, South America, you know, all over the world, to be honest. It's not exclusive, but the majority of what I'm sharing here is linked with life's expectancy versus something or a place in which we can exist. Like here in the West, as an example, for me in Sweden at the moment, the world, you know, life is, the potential for evolutionary experiences is a lot higher than, say, for instance, in places like Ghana, as an example, or Nigeria. Okay, it doesn't mean that it can't exist there. It's just that the potential for that on a greater scale. So the point I'm trying to make here with this is that whenever we look out in the world, we're always going to see sadness and darkness and pain and suffering, right? Now, at the moment, when you look at the States and you look at this recent hurricane that's busy moving through, the sheer uncertainty and panic, the sheer sense of chaos and feelings of deep overwhelmingness, the emotions that are arising from all of us when we connect with this hurricane that's just moving through the States at the moment, or particularly just through Florida. This is Pisces. Okay, if you ever wanted to understand the depth of Pisces as it's known, connect to that space. Connect to the space of what it feels like for the people that have their homes over there that have had to evacuate. Think about and connect emotionally to those circumstances. One of friends is watching this live stream at the moment. You commented on the chat. She was telling me about a place in South Africa called Knysna. I actually I was born in Knysna, and I think it was beginning of this year, not the beginning of this year, so it was like what, May time. My transiting Saturn was moving over my natal Neptune. And at that point in time, I mean, this is a whole comic story. So the reason why it's specific for me, I felt, was because there was this interesting astrological alignment where Neptune was involved. And there were these huge fires that were June, thank you. There was these huge fires that were taking place over there and actually burnt down a large majority of this town. Now, to me, what I found really interesting was that the correlation to this event, this experience, was this intense surrender, that people were connecting and all their egos were dissolving, because what we were experiencing in that moment was this universal event that broke all of our it broke our ego's like identification with power and the need for this very traumatized masculine approach of war and aggression. And there was this awakening of empathy and this overwhelming sense of wow, there is something that exists in this plane that is more powerful than this little I personality that we keep. And it doesn't matter what form of willpower that you have to stand in front of this hurricane, as an example, or even the fires that were busy destroying that land at that stage. It's not going to have an effect. It simply won't. So what we're dealing with here is human beings' emotional relationship to an experience that is so much vaster and so much bigger than the ego that it actually just consumes it, and it brings us to a space of oneness. But it's not a new age oneness in which we're experiencing bliss through this mantra nonsense. I'm talking about the realization of true power, of true source. And it's in that moment that we will begin to actually realize the purpose of what Neptune through Pisces is about, and the purpose of what it means to actually spiritually awake during this period of time. And that the idea that we make up with our minds regarding what it means to transition into awakened state is not about this search for enlightenment, but this realization and the destruction of the ego that allows for a union of small self and larger self to flow in synchronicity, to be deeply merged with the heart at a capacity that transcends the ego, that transcends the definition of what we perceive to be our sense of meaning and purpose and destiny, as an example. And it awakens layers within ourselves that breaks down all boundaries. You see that when we look at Pisces as an example, as an energy, the whole purpose of Pisces correlating to transcendence, the whole reason as to why this is the process of decay and the nature of universal. Somebody wrote in the chat, music is a universal language, right? Music is collective trance. There are no boundaries, right? It is the polarity to Saturn. So naturally speaking, when we engage in this event that is taking place right now in the States, and for many of you that are on some level, and again, I want to make this really clear, because I feel it's really important, because we have the capacity to connect with something that can be shown on world news as a large event, like, that we easily go, okay, wow, that's compassion over there. We've got to feel deep in our heart like that's chaos. This is not something that's exclusive. It's not just one event. There are multiple other experiences going out in the world in different places that we don't know about or don't really pay attention to because it's not on our front door. And so I think that that's also something really important to recognize about the nature of really, really connecting with what this means for us, that on a day-to-day basis, there are huge experiences happening to people where their relationship to surrender, their relationship to loss and to chaos, right? To chaos. Many of you that have got a lot of like Pisces in your chart, okay? Right? You know, you've got a lot of Pisces in your chart, and you've got maybe even you have the South Node in the 12th house, or if you've got the South Node in you've got the South Node in Pisces. You've got Neptune conjunct your South Node, you know, Neptune square your nodal axis. Any part of your chart where you've got a ton of Pisces energy, you've got to know that there has been at least a certain period of your life, whether it's something that you're conscious of using this ego in this lifetime or in past lifetimes, where you have these irrational fears of chaos, of uncertainty, of not knowing, and emotionally relating to that and being consumed by the overwhelmingness that exists with an energy that is akin to a hurricane, right? That is akin to having to surrender, not knowing. How many of you at some point in your life have had to experience or endure a situation in which your emotional ego in itself, the physical sense ego, your personality, your emotional relationship to the phenomena of reality, what the event was you experiencing, was so overwhelming that it actually shocked you. It like you disassociated, you detached, you know, you're full of adrenaline and you're in this state in which there's just disorientation, right? That is Pisces. That's the like the aspect of Pisces. That's one side of Pisces. Okay, the other side of Pisces is pure bliss. It's imagination. It's pure innocence. It's beauty. It's wonderment. It's the capacity to experience the polarity to what I'm sharing with you right now. So, you know, that's what I'm saying is it's not just all that. So with the moon and Neptune and Chiron all there in Pisces over there, we are looking to understand that nature. Okay, and another thing that I want to obviously share out over here as well is my relationship to the way that nature works. I think there's a lot of distortion out there in the world. Just putting in my own personal view on that situation, how we think what is going on from a geopolitical perspective. When we look at nature and we look at the relationship to wanting to control situations like that, we know that there are forces that we do need to surrender to. And so it's not a coincidence that at the moment we have this interesting dynamic of the South Node and Moon, the Neptune transit, so Neptune in the 12th house or in Pisces, and the Moon connecting to that Neptune, right, as a full moon experience, that this is the energy that comes through. And then we look out into the world and we're like, wow, there's potential devastation. There's this potential sense of what is going on. There's this potential sense of, are we going to make it? There's the literally the foundation for what you consider to be stable underneath your emotional and psychological feet are not available. And it's like, how does that feel? And that's intense. So honestly, my heart truly goes out to every single one of you that is in some way, shape, or form affected or going to be affected or having to engage in this experience with this hurricane and with also these fires over here, because it's something that I've been through my own stuff in that sense, but on an emotional level, it's a big deal. And so I just hope that every single one of you are able to find a way to be safe during this period of time and to allow yourselves to have the most amount of compassion for what is going on right now, specifically there, but also for the other atrocities that exist in the world that we don't have control over, that we are on some level detached from. Like for myself, like currently living in Sweden at the moment, that energy is not on my doorstep, but so I'm not like, my body is not emotionally reacting to the situation as it is for somebody else out there, but and so therein lies that story of like I can be there in that sense, and I can, do all the sending light and love type of stuff. But really at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that whatever it is that is being experienced through everybody right now on that is directly experiencing that, I sincerely hope that it goes okay for you. Truly, truly, truly. Okay, so what I found really interesting about the nature of, so that was a little bit of a teaching on the nature of Pisces, by the way. At the end of the day, it's awakening. It's allowing our ego to, our physical ego to really remember the purpose of, or the true purpose of its existence and what it's here for, honestly. Look at the symbol of Mars, right? Mars is at 0 degrees Virgo. It just entered Virgo. The sun's at 13 degrees Virgo. It's obviously opposed this Neptune moon experience. Now Virgo is the polarity, right? Virgo is the polarity to Pisces. Like Pisces can be so overwhelming that it becomes this, you just get swallowed in and dissolved by the process. There is no ego in Pisces. It simply doesn't exist. It can't, because everything is unified. The Virgo archetype shows us that there's crisis. And I think that if you had to look at the nature of this energy right now, you could actually see that there's an intense amount of crisis occurring, which of course is very profound in this context, because with Mars just entering Virgo, Virgo is all about the flipping of the pyramid. Okay, Virgo is where we transition from the little sense of I to the collective, or in this particular instance, the development of how we connect to the collective I. And in Leo, we are developing a strong sense of identity that is about validating ourselves, but it's still very subjective. When we reach Virgo, Virgo starts to flip the pyramid of I'm at the top of the pyramid and everybody pay attention to me, to Virgo saying, okay, well, we've got other people out there that also are on their own trip. And so how do we interact with everybody else in a way that respects and recognizes their trip as important as we validate our own? So Virgo creates humbling. It creates the opportunity to see the void within us, the capacity to balance our inner self and our outer self, where we can find equilibrium between the left and the rightness for ourselves, the ability to find truth in the stillness. So that's why when we have a hurricane and the eye of the storm is that still part, well, that would be the Virgo Pisces axis connecting completely. And that's the balancing point. It's not overwhelming and chaotic. It's just pure bliss and stillness. And everything appears in that sense to be perfect. So Virgo allows us to, in an alchemical sense, to purify us from any ego attachments and structures that we have linked to the physical plane that doesn't support or serve deeper layers of awakening within ourselves. In other words, deeper layers of access and to our heart. And not the mind's version of the heart, not the Valentine's version of the heart, but the one that is deeply, deeply connected in holding space for not only yourself, but for this plane of existence, and to recognize the separation that we all move through in this lifetime, and what that separation causes us, and how we move through separation, and how the pain and the suffering that we experience until eventually we find union with life, and all of a sudden everything appears then to be beautiful. It appears to us through our senses of this cosmic bliss. So you can see that there's a pattern here with this energy in which Virgo and Neptune are, or should I say Pisces and Virgo are balancing things here. We're trying to find this, not we're trying to, we are experiencing and evolving through this period of how do I bring deeper authenticity to my life that is linked with a purpose that is outside the realms of what is conditioned by what we think it should be. So an example that I could give in this particular instance would be that, and again, no disrespect to anybody that has moved into this field, this is not a judgment of any sort. It is just simply an exercise to share and to emphasize a point. But if you look at any or specific Hollywood actors as an example, or Hollywood itself, or potential YouTubers that are out there that can get easily caught in the maya of validation, and that the power can go too much to the head. And so therefore there becomes this inflated ego in which there is a deep narcissistic need for validation. It's almost as if the process of the maturation of the ego is still stunted in the child's need for demands and throwing tantrums, and there's the glorification of that. Purpose means to be recognized in a Leonic way that is blown out of proportion. So what we do is we chase symbols of success that have been defined by society according to what society defines as that. And what we do along that road is we actually lose our true authenticity, because what we find in that process is not what we're here to truly see. And that's what I think is really powerful about what I'm sharing here. That's the point. The point is we each don't need to go and have an outer authority tell us what that uniqueness is. We can actually find it for ourselves if we begin to recognize the union within ourselves. And as we go through that process of finding deeper layers of realness within us, it naturally matures. That level of realness for ourselves naturally matures. And of course, the biology of the brain and the way that the structure of the body is crafted, we have that capacity. It's there to facilitate all the body's functions, and the way that the brain is set up from a biological perspective actually facilitates that process. So again, it's not something that we need to seek. I think that's a very important thing for us to recognize here during this Leo energy transit, that it can be easy to be swayed by the idea that Leo talks about finding purpose. And I don't think that that's good. I don't think it's okay to say that we're here to find purpose. We had to experience ourselves, and when we experience ourselves, we know our purpose, because each of us has a specific configuration. I mean, that's the point of the astrology chart. That's the reason why you would want to be connected to your astrology chart and to awaken your own consciousness, is to allow for these energies to be brought into light. And when they are brought into light, the vision is already there. So it's this beautiful thing where when you take the flashlight and you walk into a room, okay, the room is dark. Let's say, for instance, in that dark room, there is a table, a chair, and say, for instance, like a fridge. It's a kitchen as an example, right? And so we've got a fridge, we've got a table, we've got some chairs over there, and maybe a painting. Those things are actually there, whether you look there or not, okay? It's not like they cease to exist if you're not looking there. So your sense of realness, your sense of authenticity, your sense of deeper meaning for what your life is about is not going to go away, or you don't need to go search for it outside of yourself. All you need to do is just shine or turn on the light, or shine the flashlight into the dark room, so that when the light reflects itself back off the objects, what you're seeing is a reflection of what is already there. So when you're getting connected with the nature of Leo in its purest form, what you're actually doing is finding path to authenticity, finding path to what is the realness that exists for you, that is already there, that all you're wanting to do is just switch the light on. Now, as I said again, this is not something that you don't need to go and seek. It already exists within you. Your DNA already contains the natural activations and timeframes in which these will occur. And even trying to accelerate the idea of when your awakenings or experiences that are going to deepen your sense of like beingness, like your actual what it is that you're here to see, like the more that you allow yourself to accept timing as a natural like awakening process, then there's almost like a relaxation that begins to occur, because you respect the nature of life as it is moving through you, and you are experiencing it. It's doing all the work for you. You're watching that process. And the more you get to observe that experience, the more you get to watch it, the more you get to see that story, the deeper your relationship to your true self becomes available. So what we're working with here, with this Mercury that's just gone direct, what we're working with here with this North Node that's in Leo, and with this Venus that's in Leo at the moment, it is about the promotion. This is the highest frequency. Now, what I really found fascinating about this when I was talking to Jen about the story, and I'm sure that every one of you on some level has had this experience, but how many of you have experienced nostalgia over the last 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe even a lot longer, in terms of an emotional relationship to a sense of self that almost appears as if it was you in the past? And that when you kind of relate to that aspect of yourself, you're able to see the awareness that's maturing from this relationship to this past identity, this past sense of self that once was you. Okay, that once wasn't a part of your movie, a part of your vision, a part of what you were experiencing. That's almost available right now. Again, it's almost like it's existing in a parallel reality, but you're able to access it in the time that you're present with yourself right now. And as you kind of compare this, you actually start to notice. I mean, yeah, just I'm super curious to know if that's the case. But the point is that there is a lot of like dissolving that is occurring for us right now, right? With all that Neptune there in the 12th house, there's a lot of ending of like the once was is just slowly but surely moving away, and or maybe not even moving away, but just almost existing in a different time frame that makes you feel as if the contrast between where you are right now and what that was, it almost shows you a different path. It's like, I don't know how to describe it in a way that can really capture your imagination, but it's almost as if you're like watching it exist side by side for you. And you can even incarnate some of that stuff into your physical life as a way of going back to old habits, as an example. But you can notice the difference between that energy and this one. So, and what I really found fascinating about this, and I want to share it anyway. Over the weekend, I went to an experience here in Sweden, Malmö, and what I found really interesting about what I was watching and what I was seeing was that when I went over there, it was one of the events that I would have wanted to have gone to when I was like 21, 22, and the technology wasn't available for people in South Africa to actually have an event like that. Nevertheless, people that were actually interested in it. But I had the access to this information and to these events through friends, and it was something that I loved and enjoyed to doing. And it's 17 years or 16 years later did I actually go and relive that experience. And what was I feeling and what was I experiencing with these 17 years in difference, right? Like I was, oh wow, I'm experiencing this event right now that I loved at 17 years ago, 16 years ago. And it was really, really, it was a really profound experience. It was really amazing. And that's what I was also piggybacking off as well. Like I could feel the difference in growth almost. Yeah. So let's look at some other planetary symbols over here. I wanted to say, I also found it really interesting as well that Mercury goes direct. As it passes Mars, Mercury goes into Leo, Mars goes into Virgo. Mercury is at the same place that it was when the solar eclipse happened, right? The huge solar eclipse in Leo. And of course, this is the full moon that happened post this solar eclipse in Leo. So everything pre the solar eclipse almost felt as if there was a rewriting of the energies. And it almost feels as if, like with Mars in Virgo at 0 degrees with this this full moon, that there was like, I'm ready, like, let me go out the gates. Let me start this journey new. It's like, it's all fresh. Like, let's jump out into this experience. Let's try this new energy out. There's been a lot of purification and cleansing. There's a lot of deeper sense of purpose and what feels as if there is authenticity within yourself, like a clarity is occurring while there is mass amounts of confusion. And so it almost feels as if there is an opportunity to really begin to initiate, or maybe not even initiate, maybe just respond to life as it's moving through us in a way that is about new energy, that is about new reactions, incarnating, bringing to your physical reality this new, deeper, authentic self, and seeing what happens. And I see that with Jupiter in Libra trining the South Node, and Jupiter also opposing Uranus and which Uranus, of course, is retrograde at this stage. That opposition in that trine, remember that the South Node is being ruled by Aquarius or Uranus, and of course Jupiter is trining that South Node, it's opposing Uranus. So there's an interesting threading there around what Jupiter represents for us in Libra. And this whole entire story can go on forever and a day about what Jupiter in Libra really represents for us. But if we just take a look at the symbols here, we can see that there is a new relationship that's wanting to be formed. There's a necessity for trusting or exploring or being almost like a little bit trying to be risky in allowing new experiences to occur while trusting that the experience is going to be fruitful for you. It's almost like you're you've got some trauma, you've got some stuff that has been really, really like needing to be shifted within yourself. This whole entire solar eclipse comes about, Mercury's retrograde, it adjusts some things. We move over to this full moon in Pisces. There's a deep connection to dissolving barriers that separate the self, the little self and the higher self. There's a union, there's a merging, and then what happens is that this Jupiter goes, okay, try it. Like just respond to it this different way, even if it feels fearful. Like try it. Like integrate the shadow into yourself and not be afraid of it and see what happens. And it's almost as if there's an opportunity to really embrace a new direction with faith and trust that allows your ability to see life in a way that is not limiting anymore. Because again, the purpose of the South Node in Aquarius is to break down threading that have been crystallized through suppression and control and limitations that have been felt and conditioned on yourself, you know? So that's a really powerful thing. And of course, all of the stuff over here with Saturn just going direct in Sagittarius, it's such a beautiful exploration of Saturn saying we're reinventing our truth. We're reinventing our authenticity, what it means to be truly ourselves individually, and then of course how that then spans out collectively. And that's not something that, I want to make it clear here in the sense that it's not something that is rooted in a, again, not a blissful state of, wow, that's not what I'm saying about this. It's like maybe choosing to see reality for what it was. Maybe choosing to not want to disassociate when things get a little bit tough because that's how you've had to deal with it in the past. But trying something new, being a little bit kind of almost brave, challenging yourself a little bit. Saturn asking you to say, let's restructure an experience that maybe sees it like it's a little bit more positive for you, that embraces a newness, embraces courage, as an example. So that's something that I feel is really powerful about this full moon experience. So that's all I have to share for everybody today. I truly hope that it really caught your attention and you found something really peaceful in this experience right now.